In this episode, I'm with Verne Harnish, the GOAT of scaling businesses. What's up, Verne? Welcome to the show.
Good to see you. 11,000 startups every hour in the world. So we're not hurting
Every hour?
Every hour. So we're not hurting for new companies. The challenge is way too few scale. Only 4% get to 1 million, which is the threshold to become a member of EO, and then it just becomes rarefied earth after that. And I had about almost 1,200 entrepreneurs in the audience. Michael Dell was there. I sat him next to Steve, and Mark Cuban, and many of the others that we know. And afterwards, we had a party, and Steve stayed. And he kind of stood in the corner. And it was like most of the entrepreneurs. My mentor, Joe Mancuso, said it's okay to be independent, but no reason to be alone. And I saw that, and I realized that there needed to be an organization for exclusively entrepreneurs.
Everyone wants to be great, but only few actually get there. And I'm on a mission to find out what all the greatest have in common. I've traveled tirelessly to find, sit down, and talk with GOATs, people that are arguably the greatest of all time at what they do. Sales, marketing, advertising, business, podcasts, branding, you name it. The way they do things may be different, but they all seem to see the world the same way. To them, success is not only achievable, but inevitable. And we'll get inside their heads as they share their expertise with me each week. My name's Mike Arce, and this is The GOAT Show. This episode is sponsored by Trainual. One of the most popular authors for entrepreneurs, Michael Gerber, said people should not run a business, systems should run a business, and people should run the systems. And having all those systems and processes organized and documented is crucial to building a scalable company. However, it can be a very daunting task to make all that happen, but not with Trainual. Trainual gives you an all-in-one solution to quickly and easily document your processes, educate your team, keep them updated with changes, and quiz them along the way to ensure they know the material. I absolutely love Trainual, and you can learn more at gettrainual.com. Again, that's gettrainual.com. And I also have to share my experience with ClickFunnels. If you've been living under a rock and haven't heard of them, they're hands down the #1 platform for building landing pages and marketing funnels. I've been using them since 2015, and it's so crazy how easily my team and I create landing pages using their proven templates and easy drag and drop system. Without any design or coding experience whatsoever, we've been able to create hundreds of landing pages within minutes that look great and close sales better than anything we've used in the past. They're great for webinar funnels, sales funnels, demos, squeeze pages, you name it. I can't even imagine my business doing as well without them. And actually right now, they're offering a free 14-day trial if you go to clickfunnelspromo.com. So I definitely recommend you guys take advantage of that 14-day trial. It's free for 14 days, and you can get it at clickfunnelspromo.com. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Arce, and welcome back to another episode of The GOAT Show, where we interview people that are arguably the greatest of all time at whatever it is they do. And today, I'm here with Verne Harnish, the GOAT of scaling up. What's up, Verne? Welcome to the show.
Good to see you.
So you've got Rockefeller Habits and Scaling Up, both books of which my company has ran off of. Most recently, over the last probably 5 years or 4 years, been Scaling Up. And we have been using this as our textbook, and everything that you say about people and how to run that, how to measure, how to manage meetings, structures, there's not one page in here that we don't use. It's pretty impressive how well you've written this book. So I wanted to take some time. I know you just gave a great talk at Genius Network, and you got to get to the airport. So I want to take a little time to talk to you about scaling up and some things that you've learned along the way, even since writing this book.
Yes.
Is that cool?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right.
Awesome.
So one of the things that I really liked was what you talked about people, where enthusiastically rehiring them.
Yes.
And if you can't say you'd enthusiastically rehire, you, well, actually, why don't you just give me your thoughts on that?
Well, that's it. If you couldn't, right now, knowing what you know about the team that you've got, if you wouldn't enthusiastically rehire them, you got to kind of go with that gut and begin to look at making some changes. And by the way, it's not just your employees. It's all the relationships that surround the business. It could be your banking relationship, your professional services relationships, partner issues that you've got, both externally and internally. It could even be with certain suppliers and customers that you no longer want to particularly do business with. So it's constantly reevaluating the relationships that you have brought and surrounded the business with.
Right. And you've obviously, we know who you are and what you've done now.
Yeah.
But how did you get to this point? What was it that you said, okay, I'm not going to be a doctor, I'm not going to be a lawyer, I'm going to do this? How did you get to become the GOAT of scaling up?
Yeah, it's so my grandparents had their own business. My dad then, with some partners, launched a very successful company called Higher Electronics. So I grew up around entrepreneurs, and then he lost it all in the '73 recession, and it kind of destroyed him and really impacted our family. And it was one of those kind of things where I said, look, I'm going to kind of dedicate my life to see that doesn't happen to other entrepreneurs. But it wasn't that direct. I was a mechanical engineer, thought I was going to the nuclear Navy. I helped kind of scale a company while I was in college, Superior Supply Company in Wichita. And on our board was this former dean of the business school, Fran Jabera, who had just launched the Center for Entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And I went to go see him because I knew I wasn't going to be president of the company I was with, because he was the son of the owner, who was a good mentor of mine. And Fran offered me this opportunity to come help him and get students in, high school students, to teach them how to start their company. And that was 1982, and I haven't looked back since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the subtitle of the book is How Few Companies Make It
Yeah.
and Why the Rest Don't.
Yeah.
So what are some basic principles you can share today of why most companies don't make it or why some do?
Yeah. Well, first of all, interesting statistic: 11,000 startups every hour in the world. So we're not hurting
every hour.
Every hour. So we're not hurting for new companies.
Right.
In fact, we kid, there's probably hundreds of thousands of people moving into their parents' basement every day
Wow.
that are out there launching those companies. The challenge is way too few scale. Only 4% get to $1 million, which is the threshold to become a member of EO, and then it just becomes rarefied earth after that. And so one of the first chapters is, what are those fundamental barriers? And first, it's between your own ears. It's your own kind of mental barriers that you have to address, your own demons. But then there's some just real structural stuff. First, your own leadership development. A lot of courses now on almost every street corner on how to start a company.
Right.
And of course the MBA, which I've got, supposedly teaches you how to manage a big company,
Right.
but there isn't a curriculum. That's why we felt we needed to create it as part of this exec program I launched for EO years ago. And that became Rockefeller Habits and Scaling Up. So
Right.
your own development. Number two, just getting a scalable infrastructure. I'm telling you, setting offices up and phone systems and computer systems and the like, it should be easy, but it's still tough.
Okay.
As you've run into. That's a lot
Sure.
of the stuff that gets in the way. And then number three, it really comes down to marketing. That is the function of all the functions that really is critical if you want to scale. And it's the inability to really get a good, healthy marketing function separate from sales in place, which was, by the way, the only function that Steve Jobs chaired at Apple when he came back. Tim Cook ran everything else, which is why that company was able to scale. So those are three of the many barriers you've got to address.
Right. So when somebody is first starting out,
Yes.
there's different elements that they can focus on.
Yes.
There's people, there's systems, there's
Yeah.
financial, like really understanding the financial game, there's sales
Yeah.
and marketing. As a startup,
Yes.
where should the majority of the attention start going to?
Sales. I mean,
Sales.
look,
Okay.
you got to just sell like hell. And so many companies get all caught up in, well, I got to get the logo right, and I got to get the website right, and I got to
Right.
get the business cards printed, and all this. They want to do everything to prepare to sell instead of just get out there
Right.
and start bringing in some revenue. Because it's only then do you begin to learn more rapidly, is going out and failing rapidly.
Right.
And finding out what works and what messages work and what pitches work. So you've just got to get your minimal viable product, MVP, and just start getting it out there into the marketplace. And then we've got a tool called the Vision Summary. My wife launched an olive oil business, and day one, last September 9th, sat down and we penciled out, what are her values, her purpose, her 3 promises that she's going to make. And if you want to convince somebody to buy your product or service, the godfather of influence, Robert Cialdini,
Right.
said you got to give people 3 reasons. Better than 2, better than 4, crushes a list of 10.
Right.
And then you got to figure out where you're going to take this thing over the next 10 years. So we've got a nice simple form, a startup can fill out day one, and then you just start the climb.
So now when it comes to money and money management,
Yes.
I remember when I first started my business, I thought I had a good grasp on it.
Yeah.
And I look back at myself then, and I think it was just so elementary, and I feel like I'm so far ahead of the game.
Yeah.
But that also makes me wonder how much more I still have to learn, because I'll probably think I'm elementary today at one point. Yeah. So where do you go to learn that? You know, if it's not going back to college or MBA, like how do you learn, or how do you recommend companies start learning how to get a good grasp on the finances?
Yeah. Well, look, most of us are going to hire somebody. Okay. I remember the very first person I had do my books, Claudia Smallwood, a neighbor across the street from where I launched Gazelles. It was a day a week. And she's the one that began to kind of get the numbers pulled together and began to share them with me. And it's one of the reasons why between the two books, we really bolstered the whole cash section of the business, because we realized that a lot of entrepreneurs don't really understand an income statement, and particularly a balance sheet and a cash flow statement, and these are critical. And so we tried to write it real simply for folks to follow, and but that's going to be one of the key relationships. We're big fans of Greg Crabtree's book, Simple Numbers, and so that's where I would start.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite books. That one and Financial Intelligence was a really good book too.
You got it. And then I would also, from the cash side, recommend John Mullen's The Customer Funded Business. Because the reality is, rather than raise money from friends, families, and fools, which just puts a lot of pressure on you, get your money from customers. Look, even Elon Musk did that. He needed $4 billion to build a factory. He went to 400,000 customers who gave him a $1,000 deposit, and there it was, an interest-free, equity-free, $4 billion loan.
Right. Wow. Now you started a program called EO.
Yes.
Right? And a lot of people think entrepreneurism could be a lonely place.
It is.
And so tell me why you started EO, and why you think more entrepreneurs should look for organizations like EO.
Yeah, I can tell you the night. Fran and I co-founded this group called ACE, Association of Collegiate Entrepreneurs, and managed to convince Steve Jobs to come out and give his first public speech after being fired from Apple. And it was at the Bonaventure Hotel, 1986, and I had about almost 1,200 entrepreneurs in the audience. Michael Dell was there. I sat him next to Steve, and Mark Cuban, and many of the others that we know today. And afterwards, we had a party, and Steve stayed. And he kind of stood in the corner. And it was like most of the entrepreneurs. My mentor, Joe Mancuso, said it's okay to be independent, but no reason to be alone. And I saw that, and I realized that there needed to be an organization for exclusively entrepreneurs, where they could be there as a kind of a support network as they begin to scale their businesses. And that we got formally launched in 1987, and this year is our 30th anniversary.
And it's great because these organizations, although they do have a lot of business relationships and networking, and a lot of stuff happens like that, but in these forums, these 3-hour meetings that they have, there's a lot of talks that are even outside of business, a lot of personal stuff, family issues, things that may be taking you away from your business that you don't really know how to talk about with anybody else.
Yeah, you know, that's at the heart of EO, YPO, Vistage, is this small group, support group, where it's a safe place for you to verbalize what your concerns are. And we've learned a lot now with brain science that if you sit around and think about your problems, it just makes them worse. It upsets your stomach more. It's less sleep. We're actually a being that needs to verbalize it. And the minute we can say it, particularly in a safe place, that amygdala that wants to fight or flight shuts down, and your prefrontal lobes light up like a Christmas tree, and you can start to solve the problem. And so it's a real practical thing that every entrepreneur needs if they want to figure out how to get their constraints out of the way.
Last question, and this is a question that's actually, I notice it's a debate. Some people say one thing, some people say the other, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. So a lot of people say when you're building a business, you want to build a business that you can sell. Whether you plan on selling it or not, it's great. If you want to keep it, you own it, right?
That's right.
But you build a business to sell it, and people don't want to buy a business that's reliant on you.
That's right.
And your brand around it. But now with social media and the way we can use the internet and video, a lot of people are using a personal brand and building up a personal brand in order to get attention, but that also helps fuel the company. So it's two schools of thought. Do we build a personal brand that the company relies on and grows? Or do we try to stay in the shadows as CEOs and let the company be the brand?
Well, no, look, Ford was originally named after Henry Ford, but long gone. You know, Mercedes-Benz, look at any of the kind of companies that have got founders whose names they put on the particular door. have survived way beyond the founders. Even rest his soul, Steve Jobs, with Apple, who didn't have his name on the door, but was a critical component of the success of that business. No, you want to always, every day, build the company as if you're going to have to sell it tomorrow. Because reality is, you don't know how long you've got.
Right.
Steve, would like to still be here, I'm sure. In all companies, you're going to have to exit, whether it's forced on you or you control that decision. And so it's critical that, as John Warlow wrote the book, Built to Sell, you need to always be making every decision with the eye on the fact that, would somebody find what I'm doing valuable? And if they wouldn't, even if you don't want to sell, you're probably not making the right decisions.
Awesome. Well, I just wanted to personally thank you, and I know my team would like to thank you as well, as I can honestly say my business wouldn't be as structured, organized, and have a clear understanding of what we need to do if it wasn't for your book, Scaling Up, and the talk that I saw you do at Alchemy. So thank you very much for everything you've done. I'm sure I'm not the first guy to say this to you either.
That's cool.
And keep doing what you're doing, man. Thank you very much.
It means a lot. You know, we're the innovation and engines, job engines of the economy. It's not the big companies, it's not the startups, it's us mid-market firms. And so what we do matters. And so I appreciate you doing the hard work.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And for everyone watching and everyone listening, we just spent time with the GOAT, and we will see you next week. Thanks for joining us today. If you like this episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel or find our podcasts on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever your favorite place to listen to podcasts might be. And if you really like this episode, please leave a review for us on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.